Hi, I'm Aprille Flint-Gerner, Deputy Director with ODHS Child Welfare. I am here today with a wonderful panel of our partners from District 8 to talk about our vision for transformation. I wanted to start with just a little bit about the vision for transformation because this conversation, I think, highlights one of the most important and critical factors in that vision. We really believe that our efforts to improve outcomes for children and families and really serve Oregonians is going to be hinged upon our ability to partner with our community and partner with those that are closest to the community. And so, the vision for transformation really talks about building a prevention system and a preservation system. It really talks about our workforce and infrastructure and how we use our data to continuously improve. And today we're really going to talk about partnership and a prevention system. And we are thrilled to have Kim Whitney with us as the district manager from District 8 with her partners. And so I'd love to introduce our panelists today and our partners, starting with our ODHS district manager, Kim Whitney.
Thanks, Aprille. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I am blessed to be a part of District 8 down here with Jackson and Josephine County in Southern Oregon. And I'm just so thankful to be a part of ODHS and part of this transformation and realize the value that we're placing on family and the importance of family in the lives of our children. And family's always been extremely important to me. And so having a family myself and being able to do something in my professional life to make a difference in our community couldn't have more of a dream job. I'm very thankful to be here and very grateful for partnerships like the one with Eric and Lisa in meeting the needs in our communities and recognizing if we want to have different outcomes, we've got to start doing something differently. We're not going to get anything different if we keep doing work the same way. And so with that, I'd love to introduce Lisa O'Connor.
Hi, well, I'm super glad to be here as well. I'm Lisa O'Connor. I'm the Executive Director of the Family Nurturing Center, and you're definitely speaking our language. I mean, our grassroots was designed for this purpose, so everything in this transformation is actually core to who we are as an organization. And I myself, being a parent, I say that parenting is hard. I think it's the hardest job I've ever had. And we really just want to meet parents where they're at so that we can give kids the best start possible. I do believe that this, our community has been suffering for quite some time, and it's going to take a community solution in order to change and move that dial moving forward. But I believe that we have the right group and the right heart and the perfect vision for moving that forward.
And my name is Eric Geyer. I'm the director of Jackson County Community Justice. I use he, him pronouns. And I'm also the chair of our local alcohol and drug planning committee and our local public safety coordinating committee. So for me, the idea of partnering with Kim in the vision of DHS, ODHS, in terms of what this valley really needs is exciting. I think that it's exciting because it puts families first. It puts the voices of lived experience at the forefront. And for me, I share with Lisa O'Connor, both of us are YMCA people. We come from YMCA backgrounds. And with Kim, I share the fact that we have horses in our lives. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation, Aprille. This should be fun.
That's awesome. I love that, we've got Oregonians here. We have folks with families and interests and hobbies, and we all care about our state and our community and really want to share with our community and making sure that our families and communities have an opportunity to thrive. So I'm really grateful to you all for your leadership, your passion, your great smiles. It's all wonderful to see today, and I'm excited for this conversation. I know that there's other things going on in the district that is giving you a lot of hope as well. Can you talk about some of the other things that you all have going on that are exciting and kind of in alignment with guiding principle number 2?
Sure. Jackson County especially has really been impacted by fires in the last year. And our child welfare involved families were part of that group of individuals in our community. And, housing's not been an issue that's new. It's been an issue prior to the fires. It's an issue, even greater issue now. We have had a lot of people displaced by that. And yet that's yet another area that we're seeing our community come together in ways I don't think any of us would have imagined were possible. And recognizing that we're truly stronger when we work together. And we can make great outcomes, probably beyond anything any of us would ever do individually. When we choose to kind of let our own egos get out of the way and stop competing and start collaborating, stop looking at what is the barrier. I so value the community partnerships in that as we open up our ability to hear and learn from one another, there's many things that are brought to me as the district manager as, hey, did you know this? Or what about this? Lisa's fabulous. She'll just send these emails. What about this thing? Hey, can this be of help to you? And we're jumping on it. And oftentimes we instantly assume there's not funding or revenue available to start doing the right things. And yet maybe the conversation shouldn't begin with the finances. It should begin with the vision. Where are we going? What are we trying to do? What's the barrier of getting there? And how do we all figure a way? A barrier is just a barrier. You can go over it, under it, around it. It doesn't mean the barrier is gone. There just might be a different way to get to the outcome you're all doing together, differently than we often think is the way we would naturally get there. And I think that's part of what's exciting me down here locally is there's some organic things that are just happening. And I truly believe nothing happens by accident. It really begins with our relationships. That when we all open the door, that we can just pick up the phone and call each other and say, hey, I have this crazy idea. What do you think? Let's go have coffee. There's power in that. And so I'm really excited to see the relationships developing with a shared, honestly, it's a shared vision for transformation. And it's not just transforming child welfare, it's exactly what we've been talking about. It changes the fabric of our community to really believe in hope and the capacity of people.
And Kim, that's the only thing I'll push back on is that I don't think it's quite as organic as you've said. I think you've been very intentional about seeking out partnerships and speaking to this vision, and that drives a lot of this. And then you find a lot of shared and common ground. And, you know, our valley was just hit so hard by the fires, which I think one estimate was that we lost 2,600 housing units in our county. And that's, you know, that's really hard. And for people who are struggling with housing stability, the game just got a lot harder. So we really started to have to lean on those natural communities of support. We had to get a lot better about collaborating, and we're not through the woods on this by any stretch, but I think that it has pointed to that vision Kim talks about community partnership, being open to ideas, and listening to our families when they talk about resources and things that will work for them. So that's been one of the lessons from this.
Tell me about the hard stuff, right? Obviously, the vision is super inspiring, and you know we're all on the same page and feeling hopeful. But we can't deny that this can sometimes be hard work. I don't know, Eric, do you want to talk to me about maybe where you think some of it creates some, you know, there's some barriers or where it gets hard?
Yeah, and I think even within those barriers, the folks doing this work need to be honored and valued from where they're coming from, because they're coming from a place of safety and concern for the kids, concern for these families, concern for our community. And within this new shift, we're asking people who've been doing this job for a long time sometimes to use person-centered approaches, to trust that a family or a person on supervision in the case of corrections might know what the best natural support system for themselves is, that there are different ways and living standards that a person could have and still be healthy and thrive within our community. And these are different than what we were taught. So as we push towards this person-centered approach, where the individual can drive the caseload, we get pushback sometimes where somebody's saying, I have a safety concern and it's based on this, this, and this. So while we honor that, I still think that the message is that person-centered approaches and having the individuals that are receiving services drive this process, lead to better safety outcomes, is still at the end of the day where we come out on this. But that doesn't necessarily mean every interaction and every decision-making process is completely smooth and without conversation. It just means that we need to honor that historical perspective as we move to this new service model.
Yeah, Lisa, you know, from your perspective, where is it sometimes hard? Where is it challenging?
I think families have really complex challenges. They have complex history. They have to navigate all of these crazy systems. I think we have all of these complex systems that we expect families to fit within. I think we forget that life is just life and people are just people, and that in and of itself is complicated. And so being able to have a thought partner, being able to reach out to someone, because any one of us cannot do this work alone. Not any one individual, not any one leader, not any one entity. I think we really have to rely on one another's strengths and to be able to think things through about really what is possible, and not look at barriers as if there's something that have to stop us from moving forward, because if that's the case, we're never going to get where we're going. And so trying to find the best way to help families mitigate all of this complexity and to help our one another navigate it, I think is really a huge part of the issue. And then we all have policies that we have to deal with, right? And so that sometimes gets in the way of what ultimately may be best for this family. And I think it takes a group of people coming together to be able to say whether or not they agree or disagree for that particular family, whether it works. And I do believe that child welfare gets hung up in that often.
Thank you, Lisa. Kim, anything you'd say kind of that's hard about all of this?
Sure. Yeah, our families are very complex, and they have many things that they're experiencing and facing. And I think for our workers, we talk about leading with a strength-based perspective. We talk about all those things, but unfortunately, our conversations are most often about what's wrong. What is the crisis? What is the situation? And our workforce feels this weight of, I'm a worker and I'm carrying the weight of this child's safety in my decision making. And you want me to err on a strengths-based thing when I know there's all these other issues. I know there's substance use involved. I know there's possibly domestic violence. I know there's these things happening, and it's hard. And Lisa's program's called the Family Nurturing Center. I think they should also be called the Child Welfare Nurturing Center, and that they love our organization, and Lisa referred to us as heroes. And I think often our staff don't get enough of that. Instead, sometimes the decision to leave a child or the decision to remove from the eyes of people that aren't involved with the situation, neither one's the right one. You can't win as a child welfare worker. And that's a really hard place to be. So it's almost always easier to err on the side of safety, because then you can justify your decision making. I kept the child safe. And I think, again, this is where within our own walls as an organization, transparency becomes so important, and that no worker should go out on a limb on their own. We should go with them. That we're having that conversation together. We're reaching out to our community providers, and we're knowing that we're doing everything we can to support the strength of the family and not just mitigate risk. And we can't do it without that. And I can't express how much I appreciate, because as a government agency, we often can't do a lot to really recognize and hold our staff and do those things with those kind of extra affirming opportunities. But when you have a partner like Lisa's, who makes a point to say thank you, who makes a point to celebrate our workforce, there's value in that has no dollar amount that you can ascribe to it, and recognizing what our workers go through every day.
Well, that absolutely warms my soul as the Workforce Development Deputy Director. Thank you so much to our partners who don't just care all about the clients and families that we're serving, but taking care of our workforce, our shared workforce, because without them, what would we do, right? Eric, I know that that vision for transformation, it spoke to you. That you've taken it, and we can no longer just talk about the vision for transformation as it relates to child welfare and self-sufficiency. You talk to us a little bit about what the vision has done for you.
Yeah, I think that within community corrections, we're undergoing a similar transformation. We're really trying to find a way to put into a plan and a vision the types of lessons we've learned from not utilizing just that top-down, fear-based, I'm going to supervise a person's urinalysis results, to what does a person really need? What do they bring to the table? What are the things that led them here? What are the things we can work on? And how do we listen to them when they talk about their own experience? And, it's to a certain degree, it allows the people that we're serving a voice, and it requires us to let them drive in a lot of cases. But second to that, the work becomes richer, the results become apparent. And we go from a system on the correction side where we used to know somebody's case number and maybe their last name to, I know their kids' names. I know when their Little League games are. And that kind of family involvement and really taking an interest in a person's life, I see it in the DHS transformation vision, and I see it in the work Lisa's team does. But it's a different approach than the top-down approach that I came into this 25 years ago thinking was the way. And I'm really excited about the potential of it. And Aprille, I know we don't have hours to talk about it, but going from being client-centered, community-based, and then data-driven at the back end, I'm really excited to see what kind of indicators we can see when this is done that your team will come up with to help drive the process even further for the next iteration of this plan.
Thank you, Eric. Lisa, anything you want to say about what the vision means to you?
I think, the one thing we all have in common is we're all in the relationship business, and I think that is at the forefront of everything we do in a way that we regard the people that we are putting in a place of vicarious trauma and how we support them and how we ensure that they're keeping in mind their self-care, and then making sure that we are reminding our unsung heroes who we believe our child welfare workers really are. No matter what they do, they are placed at a center of sometimes controversy and in the hardest situations than most people can't even imagine. So I think prioritizing people, whether it be our staff teams, whether it be our partners, whether it be our children and families, I think is really important, but seeing that we're all on the same team together, whereas that power differential that Kim spoke of before, I don't feel like that exists as much. I think that, we want to make sure that people know that they are the expert. They are the ones that know their child more than anyone, and they also know what their own needs are. So, I think the days of us setting goals for families are over, thank goodness, because the buy-in and the growth and the excitement you see really comes from them seeing their own dreams and goals and values come to fruition. And honestly, to keep our staff teams inspired, they need to see that growth as well. And I'm excited about being able to share that they are in fact moving the dial, that this isn't all of us working in isolation, and that we're moving this needle towards a happier, healthier trajectory for our kids. And I do think that parents are feeling that they are much more valued and at the center, and that we're not there to keep them accountable. We're there to keep them sane and to keep them supported and healthy.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. I'm wondering if either of you, have any thoughts on how we can continue to work together to carry this out. What lessons might we be able to offer to some other partners across the state as we all work together to move the vision forward?
Absolutely. And one of the things I think Kim has done initially here is starting to convene different providers to let them know that this is the new direction of ODHS. I think there's different expectations about what child welfare's role has been historically. And as that role shifts and transforms, making sure everybody knows what that vision is and where we're going is really important. So the communication piece has been pretty important, I think, essential to this moving forward.
And I would say I love the willingness to listen. As Kim mentioned, in previous relationships, it was more like the work was prescribed and there was no room to kind of insert your own culture or insert your own expertise in where you think things could move, and just having that open dialogue about what is possible. And instead of thinking that things aren't going to change, knowing that things are going to change and that everybody's got a piece of that. And so being able to think creatively about how to best meet the needs in our community has never been as open and as welcome as it has just recently. And we are so grateful for that. So, there isn't a prescribed system for making this all better, but us working together to find it is where it's at. And I think we're on the right track.
Well, it's quite evident, Kim, that you've got some dynamic leaders to partner with you all out there in your area. There's so much to be excited about. I mean, what are you most excited about with all of this?
What am I most excited about? Oh, goodness. I am excited about our staff being able to go in to assess child safety, and instead of removing, putting in structure and support. I am excited about seeing a difference for our kids in care, not experience being removed from their families for inordinately long lengths of time, but instead being restored to their families, and their families being a part of figuring out for themselves based on who they are and their culture and their core values and their beliefs and their race, what it is that they need and how they need it, and us finding a way to help them get there. That's why we do this. It's about our children and our families, and family is so important. No matter how the family looks, family's family, and they can look very, very different. And that's another part that I'm so excited about, is the deep drive to support people to be free to be themselves. No matter how they identify, how do we support that? To see our kids who identify differently, not being told there's something wrong with them, but being loved exactly for who they are and where they're at, without any barriers to that. Those are the things I'm excited about.
Well, you've got my vote. I, as the Deputy Director over Equity Training and Workforce Development, I think one of the things that I keep hearing, really you all are describing an attention to equity, and our definition of equity is sharing power. And when you're talking about mitigating those power differentials, looking beyond a hierarchical system, that kind of top-down approach to telling families about who their children are and who their communities are, as opposed to, what I heard from both Eric, Elisa, and you, Kim, is why don't we listen to our communities and help them tell us what their underlying needs are? Look at folks as more than a diagnosis, right? As or thinking about how do we get creative and not have too many systems involved in a family's life, or have over system involvement. Really, ultimately, I heard, that the best solutions come from the people that are closest to the issues, which is not always, the person with the longest title or the biggest title, or the most letters after their name, but really are the people that are experiencing it. And how do we partner, let some of our walls down in these institutions to share vision and navigate the barriers together? And I heard about the power of relationships and how we listen to our communities to move the vision of transformation forward. So I really want to thank you all for this opportunity to gather. This is true wisdom. And I am thrilled to be in partnership with you all, in partnership with Kim, and these lovely people that she brought to the conversation today. Is there any last things that you all want to share with our community?
Lisa?
All
No,
right.
I think we're good, April. I again, these partnerships and the energy behind this type of work, really just articulating the idea that, while we're focused on safety, the best safety comes from strong families and comes from person-centered supports and engaged folks who are really looking at what it means to be healthy in our community. And this vision really supports that. And so I think it gets to a deeper, more longer lasting form of safety and health in a way that's much more equitable. And so I really commend that.
Beautiful. Well, I thank you all for being with us today, and we'll talk soon.